feel slightly embarrassed because I could have listened to you for about another hour and a half. I feel really shit taking over and bore everybody with my droning nonsense.
Taxi.
Yeah, so I'll just tap the floor and you can come on.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. We're not on. This was one of the early pieces that I did. Mountain range and yellow flowers. Here we go. Okay. That's the new company I've just set up. We call ourselves a creative venture company. I'll come on to that a little bit later and explain why. You should do this because your name is extraordinarily hard to pronounce and also say.
Oh, really? Well, sounds your name.
No, the second half.
Elton.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to
You're used to it. You're used to it. I'm not. So that's how you say that's how you write my surname, Buonaguidi. Everyone knows that's spelled Dave. That's how you say it, Buonaguidi. But I know it's not really even important. As Al said, I come from an advertising background, which is nothing really to be that proud of, because I think as a business it's pretty one-dimensional, pretty old-fashioned, still run by the fat, white, middle-class men from London, like me. But my career started at TPWA, which was a little European agency. I went to WCRS, HHCL, which was quite a cool agency in its day. I went to JWT, which was a big fat agency. I went back to HHCL, and then I got a chance to work at Chiat Day London, which was the London office of a very cool American company. As Al said, that agency got bought by TPWA, and we all effectively lost our jobs. There were 30 of us, so we decided we all knew we were going to lose our jobs, so we all of us collectively ran off and found an office that was rent-free for 2 years in King's Cross, and we set up an agency called St. Luke's, which was I think one of the first agencies that wasn't actually named after the fat white boys from London who set it up. And it was, as Al said, it was a cooperative. Everyone was an equal shareholder. We had Andy, who was the MD, and Rose, who was the cleaner, had exactly the same shares. They got paid different salaries, but had exactly the same shares. And at the time, I think it was a very interesting, it was a beautiful thing to be part of. It was like, I come from an Italian family, so probably borderline fascist. My leanings are very Buddhist communist. I think it's so my fucking real mess. But St. Luke's was effective. I mean, we did that in '96, and the idea was to try and create something that created a safer environment for people to enjoy their job and enjoy their lives, because their job is going to take up quite a lot of their lives. I did that for about 4 years, and then had a chance to go and work at Channel 4, which for me was a real missionary brand. It was a brand that I felt a lot of connection with. I think I love what they did and what they stood for. And I set up within that, I set up a thing called 4 Creative, which was the kind of internal agency. Did that for a few years, and then set up Karmarama in 2000, and that's an agency based on the concept of karma, which is fucking ridiculous. And then after 14 years, I realised that karma wasn't coming my way. Didn't like any of the people I was working with, didn't like any of the things I was doing, hated what the company was stood for. And so I left, and they put me on gardening leave. They're very strict in that kind of sense. If you decide to leave, I was going to set up another business. And they said, you're not allowed to work for a year, so I had to. So I lived as an artist. I just, it paid me to stay at home, which was very nice, but I tried to start a second career as an artist, because I thought if I've got a year where I'm not allowed to work, I might as well do something with it. I wanted to learn how to save a life, sculpt, and screen print. I did the screen printing course the day after I left Karmarama, and I've been fuck all ever since. We're on. So I did that for a year, and then I was going to go and set up something new, and I got the chance to go and work at CPD London, which is another American agency based in London. Did that for a couple of years. And then realised that all I was doing was just repeating what the fuck I'd done for the last 30 years. So I just said to 2 guys that I was working with at Unlimited, who I'd also worked with at Karmarama, let's try something different, and hence we've set up a new thing called Unlimited Inc., and I've just said, the world doesn't need another ad agency. I mean, this is basically the ad business. There are billions of businesses all chasing after the one thing, which is a big client pays lots of money to do shit work. And everybody is chasing that. And we were kind of thinking, we sat there for a few years at previous agencies, constantly, new startups would come in and go, we've only got 10 grand, we've only got 20 grand. It's not quite a lot of money. But most agencies need 60 grand a month to process any client, which is an extraordinary amount of money. But that's how ad agencies, it's the big scam, that's how ad agencies make their money, is they take 6 years to do something you can do in about 3 weeks. And if you're getting paid 60 grand a month, that's good business. And so we decided to completely jettison that model and go after startups, because the thing I really love about startup is there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of ambition, so much more ambition than the people I was dealing with in the ad side were the lowest of the low marketing manager who was terrified of making a decision above his or her pay grade, who was terrified, and their boss was terrified of making a decision above his or her pay grade. It went all the way to the top, where there was zero ambition. The only ambition that anybody had was, if I can hit my numbers, but hit 1% more, then I get my summer bonus, and that's good enough for me. Whereas the thing I love is transformation, transformative creative impact that I can, and I'm sure a lot of you agree, when you work with somebody who cares about what you do, and they are interested in what you could do for their business, you have a different relationship. So when we work with startup, we sit opposite founders who aren't interested in 1%, they're interested in 1,000,000% increase on their business standards and what they can achieve. And that's a really fascinating thing to be part of. So Unlimited Inc., we advise brands, we invest in startups, so we use a quarter of our profits to use as a fund. And we're not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but when you're working with startups, sometimes 10 grand drop here can make a massive difference to their business. So we invest in some startups, and we also launch our own products. And I think when I talked earlier about that kind of moment, and it sort of segues into some of the stuff that Salman was saying, this was a fantastic, you can't quite see it, it's Anthony Hopkins underneath there, but I think when I left Karmarama, I hit 50, I suddenly realised that I had fewer years ahead of me than I had behind me. It sounds quite morose, but it's a fact. And I read my agenda after I left Karmarama was to work with nice people and have fun. I think he summarised it in a much nicer way, but it was, I love the kind of the approach to this, which is you're only going to get one life, and you have to make sure that you maximise every moment of joy that you can out of it. Because I think there's one of those things, especially in this city, and especially in this business. Now, I don't know which businesses most of you are in, I'm sure you're all part of the creative industry of some description. And what tends to happen is we get into a kind of rut and a routine where we think, this is what we have to do because this is what everybody else does. And one of the things that you immediately realise, or after a period of time you realise, is that you have jettisoned any of your personal values and any of your personal views or ambitions or just what the fuck you like. I've worked in so many places in the past and people go, God, you must be so happy you work there. And I was thinking, fuck, I hate it. You can never really understand it. And I think it's one of those things that you often not true to yourself because you think, oh, my mate's earning this much money, and he or she lives here, and they drive this car, and they do these, and they do this, they go on these holidays, and you forget what the fuck is actually there for you to do, and what you should be doing to enjoy your life much more. I think it is about only being happy. You know, you talk very powerfully about, you know, the things that I'm sure all of us have experienced, whether it's in relationships or in work. And one of the things that we do in relationships is if we find out we're going out with an arsehole, I've got to say, there was a bit of me, because you said it's filming and I swear a lot. And I was a bit nervous because I like to say fuck a lot. and I thought, shit, am I allowed to say it? And then you just said fuck motherfucker, and I was like, I feel alright, I feel safe. But what was I fucking saying? I can't even remember. But it's about relationships. Yeah, when you're in a shit relationship, you're with somebody that you realise is not good for you. You do something about it. Now sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but you act. In jobs, what we tend to do is we just go, oh, just put up with it. I'm fucked. You know, this is it because I have to earn money. And so there's a different type of relationship. And I think that when you apply your personal happiness is the only agenda, is the only fucking agenda that you must have from now on, you'll make different sorts of decisions. And I think that, you know, personally, I found that very powerful because I was in such a dark place with my job, my marriage. I split up with my wife at the beginning of end of last year, and I've gone through quite a lot of change over the last 2 or 3 years, and it's harrowing. I actually feel like I'm walking through an explosion in slow motion, but it's the most amazing thing, because I'm waiting for a large fragment of something to hit me really fucking hard. Because it's in slow motion, I have a sort of chance to duck it if I can see it coming. Only if I can see it coming. But I think a big part of it is I made those decisions to be happy for myself, to also make sure that my kids are now going to be happier, because there's no rowing in the house anymore. my colleagues are going to be happier because I'm now working, doing things that I want to do that make me feel happy. And I think, having values, again, as individuals, we all have values. And one of the things that we don't do is we don't apply our personal values to the workplace, because we have to fucking, unless you're running it, you have to apply your life to somebody else's values. One of the things when I set up Karmarama with my pal Naresh, the founding principle there was no creative awards, no wankers. And well, it was weird. We had a big sign done in German, because no wankers in English doesn't look great. It's a bit tacky. So we did it in German, and it said, keine Wichser bitte. And I had a German, my brother-in-law was married to a German woman, and I said, can you just tell me how to say no wankers, please? And she was like, yeah. She worked in a bank, and she did it. But German is, I didn't realise it's an extraordinarily complex language with lots of nuances. And I did all the artwork for it, and I was just about to get it as a big vinyl that went right across the back wall in the agency. And we had a really cool German director who came in. I said, can I just run something by you really quickly? We want to put a sign up that says, no wankers, please. And she was like, oh, no. This says no masturbating. Sign on the wall that says no masturbating. Yeah, that's bad karma. Maybe that was the beginning of the end. Interestingly, I was saying to someone else I was talking to a minute ago that when I left Karmarama, literally as the last bit of my shoe left the building, they were entering awards, which was I think it clarified one of the many reasons that I decided to leave, because they didn't give a fuck about what the values of the company were. They were just there to make money and do whatever. But it was, I think it's massively important that you have things that you would not do as an individual. You should apply that to work. This was a really interesting talk that I saw a guy called John Doerr do in the States, and he talked that in business and in life, I suppose, you can split the world into mercenary and missionary. I think the old world that has driven advertising for 100 years is absolutely on. That's Trump, and that's Anita Roddick, who's the founder of the Body Shop. And the ad world is pretty much still in that business. When you look at the poster boy of advertising, Martin Sorrell, who's just got done for, it's a married man, just got done for fucking a hooker. Not even a very expensive one either, £110, and then he charged it on his business card. I mean, call me old-fashioned, there are three things there that are pretty stupid, fundamentally, morally wrong. And he's still touting himself around town. It's bizarre. I would have just fucked off. I would have taken the money and fucked off to an island somewhere. The thing I think is really interesting, you've got to cut that bit. If you're filming it, you've got to cut that bit out. I don't need any more heat. So when you look at the way that mercenary and missionary works, the opposites are quite interesting. And there are lots of there are lots of things that I'm sure, well, I'd like to say that all of us are probably sitting on this side of the fence. I'd like to say that. I'm sure there are some of us that are sitting on that side. But it's interesting if you think about, you're thinking about contribution at work, but then one of the things that we all default to is thinking about entitlements and what our LinkedIn profile looks like. And I think it's fascinating when you look at what we're probably like and what we have to be like because we're driven by somebody else's kind of agenda. I think that the one that's always most interesting for me is motivated by the lust of making lots of money. So it's all about control and power. And when you look at the way that Anita Roddick operates, as an example, she built a very, very successful business, but she understood the importance of money because it allowed her to do bigger and more important things. It was fundamentally driven by the desire to make meaning. And I think this is where we are transitioning. We're absolutely here right now in the world, in the way that our culture's driven. I think we're transitioning from the old way, the patriarchal way that you said, into a more maternal way. I mean, you don't have to be a woman to do it, but I think you need to think in a different way, and you have to think about contribution, not just about personal gain. And in the business, in advertising, for fuck's sake, it's ridiculous. We constantly go, it's all about diversity and getting more women into the workplace. And then what we do is we have lots of women who work in advertising who are leading ad agencies, and this is going to go down really badly, but what we used to call geezer birds. They are women who are worse than some of the men that they're sitting there trying to replace, because they have the same fucking values that a lot of the awful men have, but they go through that slightly, you know, wolf in sheep's clothing routine of pretending that they're a woman, but they're behaving worse than the men. And I think it's about a mentality. It's not about having more women or more others. It's just think in a different way, and all of that shit will come down, and then you will bring new people in who want to work in the business, because there's no way that you're going to get a lot of people. Why would women want to come and work in advertising? Why would you want to do it? You know, you wouldn't want to do it. Huh? Yeah, but you're going to need a lot of people to do it, because you're still pushing against people like that. This is a big conversation. But you're right. That's the only reason to do it, is to make a difference. But I don't think it's not right now. There'll be a moment, and it's coming. There'll be a moment when it will change. And I think it's back to the title of the show. The event is about intention. This is one of my favourite photographs. It's a picture of Eisenhower talking to a load of American paratroopers 2 days before D-Day in the 40s. And I look at those faces, and they're all like 20-year-olds. And you talk about shit, scary mission. You know, he's sitting there trying to G them up. They're about to be dropped into Nazi-occupied France. And as paratroopers, anybody who knows a paratrooper will know that it's never easy. You always drop somewhere that's really shitty because you're surrounded. You know, the fact they got to drop you in by plane is a bad sign. But I think it's about the mission that these guys had, and the mission that he had was to do something really massive. And I think, in a way, if you can apply yourselves, what is the mission that you're going to try and achieve? And it is about, you know, you're obviously extraordinarily driven. There will be lots of people in here, and you will find lots of other people when you work with them who will help you with your mission to achieve some of the things that you want to achieve. I have this theory that life is like a tube of Pringles. And you know, the first 10, 15 that you can get your fat hand in the tube, you just smack them down in groups of 5. When your hand, like I've got a big fat hand, when your hand gets jammed about halfway, you start doing groups of 2, maybe 3. And you start to slow down a little bit. I'm right down at the bottom where it all bits. And then you have to kind of put them on your tongue and let them melt. Now there's a bit of me that kind of thinks, I wish I'd enjoyed those little bits of shrapnel, Pringle shrapnel at the bottom, as much as I enjoyed the first, or I wish I'd enjoyed the first 20 as much as I enjoyed the last 3. And it's, you know, I don't know, I look back and I think there are lots of things that I did, lots of things that I've done in my past that would I have done them differently if I'd slowed down on the Pringles? Maybe, but I think there is just a little bit about thinking about every moment and absolutely existing in that, what's happening right now. I mean, I was having a chat with Sarah here earlier about, I think we spend a lot of time, maybe it's a sort of symptom of the business, but we spend a lot of time thinking, what am I going to do in 5 years' time, and 7? It doesn't really matter anymore. I don't think it matters. Certainly to me, it doesn't really matter. I think it's about, if I get through to the end of the day, I'll look, you know, without having a heart attack, I'm kind of like, that's a result. But it is about, you know, just making sure that everything that you do, every opportunity that comes your way, you're going to apply yourself 100% to try and work out what the task is that you're trying to achieve. And then if it comes off, it's great. If it doesn't come off, then go again. Don't be dull. I mean, fucking hell, we spend our lives, you know, beige is colour of the year right now in most businesses. This was a scene from an amazing TV show called The Today Show with Bill Grundy. None of you will remember it. It was 1976. These are the Sex Pistols, and it was a live show, and they were kind of, you know, part of the music scene that transformed, or the music event that transformed music, and I would also say culture, absolutely. They came on the show, which was a fucking disaster, because it was like the collision of old and new. And it was absolutely hysterical. And my dad was sitting there watching it, smoking a fag, standing up, just going like that. And I was sitting behind him, just waiting for something to get broken. And it was the most incredible moment. And I think it's quite funny when you look at it. He had a T-shirt there that was a Vivienne Westwood T-shirt with bare boobs on it. He was smoking a fag, and he called the host a dirty fucker. But now it's really odd. Like, boobs, you just go any news channel. That's no problem. Calling somebody a dirty fucker, that's nothing. Smoking a fag is about the worst thing you can do now on TV. Isn't it funny how life has changed? But what was interesting about that moment was I walked away from it. Not that I'm a massive Sex Pistols fan, but I remember it had a fundamental effect on the music scene. You'd walk into a record shop in those days, and record shops used to have about 5 hours of different music. And what happened, I think there were millions of people, or thousands of people who saw this show and then influenced millions and billions of other people to sit there and just go, it's okay to express yourself and try something new. And I think, again, back to your point, what is the Sex Pistols moment? What is that Today Show moment that is going to transform your life or your business? Because I guarantee your business needs to be kicked in the arse and shaken up and given a bit of a bolt. And what is it that's going to do that? And there are lots of things there that can happen. For some reason, we just sort of sit there and we become drones. We park all of our passion and our ambition, and we go into the office and we think, if I can get through till 6 o'clock, get to the pub, get home, and then do something else. But it's like, please set fire to something. It's much more interesting. There are so many wrongs in the world that need righting. I saw some women at an ad agency talking about, isn't it awful about the gender pay gap? I'm like, yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. But you're running the business. These two girls are running the business, or part of the management team. And then they had like the little headshots in the magazines with a picture of them going, and he said, isn't it awful about the gender pay gap? And they go, yeah, what are you going to fucking do about it? Because it's really easy. All you've got to do is sit in the next board meeting and go, should we stop doing it? And then all vote on it, and then stop doing it, and then you just go, this is what we pay the men, this is what we pay the women in the same position, and you pay them the same fucking money. It's really easy. Maybe I'm just being really stupid, but I don't understand. But I think there's a sort of cut and paste world that we live in, which is, as long as you're seen on Instagram posting a picture of you looking, and it says, gender pay is an awful thing, and everyone reposts it, and then they all go, yeah! And then all of a sudden you get a fucking MBE for saying, gender pay is a really important thing that we need to address. You don't do anything about it. If you're in a position, you fucking do something about it. Stop going on about it, stop talking about it, and pull your finger out of your arse and do something about it. That's only one of them. There's only one issue. There are billions of issues that you will be coming across on an hourly basis. And it's like, how do you do that? And some of them are small, some of them can be addressed. Just being nice is a really simple thing. That's a wrong that doesn't happen an awful lot, doesn't get addressed. And that's a really simple thing to address. But there are bigger things, and I think the more people you do it with, the better it is, and the easier it is. I'm very OCD. I had this really weird thing where it was a turning point for me when I left Karma. I went into the toilets. I think toilets are real leveler. I went into the loo once at the office, and one of the partners came out of the cubicle, and I sort of walked in, and he hadn't flushed it. And as we walked, I was just like, dude, you haven't even flushed it. And he literally looked at me, and then walked out, like it wasn't his problem anymore. And I found that I just still don't get it. And so now I've got fundamentally affected by that moment. So when I go into a toilet now, I have to try and leave it a little bit better than when I arrived. So it might mean just straightening up the soap. I don't go as far as putting the little creases on the toilet paper like they do in a hotel, because that's a bit odd. But it's just about straightening a towel, maybe wiping something down, just making it feel a little bit better than it was when I first arrived. And I think it's, in a way, you should think about your legacy in the same way. If you're going to set up a business, what is it you're going to do that's going to make it better for you? Because being selfish, setting up your own business is a selfish thing. You do it because you want to have fun for yourself. But also, what are you going to do to make it fun and more enjoyable for other people that you're going to get in, that are then going to express themselves and have more fun, and then express themselves even more and get a whole bunch more people in? That's all you do, is you're just trying to create a fan base of people who share the same values. But you have to have the right values all the way through and leave it in a better place than it was before. And we talked about setting fire to things. Arson is an amazing thing. It's fantastic. Nothing better. I mean, it reduces stuff to ashes. You then have to start again. And burning bridges, I think, is part of the fun. You know, there's sort of something that we worry about. As we get older, we get all of the fun kicked out of us by work, and by structures, and by police, and all that kind of stuff. And I think, I don't even know why I said the police. I don't even know why I said that. But I think it's about, you know, there are no kind of sacred cows anymore. I think that they are all there to be busted and set fire to. And we all think that, oh, if you do that, you're going to get into trouble. Nothing fucking happens anymore. Nothing happens anymore. You think that idiot Trump, what you can do and get away with it. We're just nobodies. We're all little ants in a big ant farm. And just by fucking rocking it or setting fire to something or challenging anything, it's amazing how I think that we're in a position as well where there are so many people who just think beige is the new flag that we have to worship under. And the minute you stand up, like when you stood up, it made the hair. When you stood up and started talking, it made the hair on my arm stand up, and it made me want to go and punch a bloke in the face.
Do it.
And I think that it made me think. And there's very, very rarely do you get an opportunity to do anything. See a film, listen to a bit of music, listen to somebody talk, where you're going to sit there and walk away from it and think, "Fuck, I have to do something." You know, I felt that when I listened to you, and I think it's really, really powerful that everybody has got that ambition to challenge and to make things better. That's called progress. That's how shit happens. Is when somebody goes, I don't know. I've got the theory that the world is made up 90%, 99% donkeys, 1% lions. And it's donkeys will sit in the corner of the field and wait to be fed all day long, and lions will go out and start eating stuff and attacking stuff. And I think you have to have everybody has got a bit of lion in them. It just depends on how quickly you become a donkey. And I think as you get older, as you get kids, you rely on money. You have to, you just become more and more. Your ears get longer, and you sit in the corner of the field, and you're happy to eat carrots all day long. And it's a shit way of living because you're not doing anything for yourself, and you're not doing anything for anybody else. And I think that it's much more fun when you grab stuff and set fire to it. That's just something. I had a conversation with a bloke at one of these, because we're working with startups, we go to a lot of these kind of little events. And I met a guy who was, he hadn't even done anything, he hadn't even set anything up. And he came up to me and I said, "Oh, what do you do?" And he had a load of charts on the wall, and he gave me a little deck and an itinerary. And he said, we're gonna raise some money and we're gonna launch our product in like 6 months' time. And then we're gonna hire 12 people, and then we'll raise a bit more money, and then we'll hire another 20 people, and then we'll have an exit strategy. I was like, "What the fuck are you saying?" Because it wasn't like, if he turned around, I had a conversation with him, and we were talking about, I said, "What do you do?" He says, I take photographs, I eat food. Well, that's great. That's all I need to know. I eat food, there's a passion there. This little fucker, he didn't even tell me what the product was. He was just like, we're going to do this, we're going to hire some, we're going to raise some money. I thought if he told me what he was thinking about doing, got a new product that's going to change the colour of air. I thought, "Oh, that's it." But he was like, no, it's just like, I've got a 3-year window, 4-year window in order to make a load of money, and I'll move on to the next thing. There's a fucking weird thing, it's a real fuckboy twist, which is, all we care about is, I just need to call myself an entrepreneur, and if I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm a loser. And it's really weird. I don't think it's about making a huge amount of money. I mean, money is kind of important, it pays for shit. But I think it's also about how do you do something that you're passionate about. Because if you're passionate about something, guaranteed there are a million other people who are going to be passionate about it as well. And if you do something that they're passionate about, you will make money. But you just got to go out there and express yourself. Fuck starting with, I'm going to make a shit ton of money in 4 years with a kind of an itinerary, I just find really, really odd. Maybe I'm really analog, quite old-fashioned, but I think if you can apply yourself with a passion and a dream first, and then try and work out how you can do it, you'll be all right. And that's it.